This week's scenario is Linebreaker from the 2016 Steamroller packet. The scenario does not have the kill box artifacts and consists of 4 flags and 2 objectives. The enemy flags can be controlled for 1 CP or dominated for 2 CP, and the enemy objective can be destroyed for 1 CP. Victory conditions consist of 5 control points or caster assassination. Hey everybody, Taodark here, and this week I've decided to play my favorite caster just in his prime version, Butcher 1. Taking 2 destroyers to leverage the feat and a bunch of black dragons, which used to be the Butcher 1 thing, now it's more shooting. I just don't have all the rifles and rockets necessarily to play it that way, so I'm going to throw some black dragons down.
Alright, today I'm going to use Archdomina Makeda, Molik Karn, several other beasts, beast handlers, the Keltarii, because, well, I really like them, the Cetrati with Vorkesh, the legends, a Willbreaker to round out the list.
So, I'm going first. I'm going to do symmetrical deployment, but I'd like to take the opportunity to discuss this table. There's currently 2 buildings, decent size, that are in play on this terrain. One is on my right-hand side. It's going to kind of clog up my deployment. The other one is the central one, between basically the 2 objectives. That building is a pain in the butt. I'm going to have a lot of issues drawing line of sight with demolishers, and just overall, I'm legitimately concerned on how I'm going to get around that building to deliver my army properly.
Alright, my deployment's pretty simple. My caster and the battle group in the middle, hoping to be able to allow them to go to either side as needed. And then the 1 unit to the south, 1 unit to the north, hoping I can get forward and start scoring some control points. Or at least ways to tie him up from getting onto my side and start scoring some points. And then the legends are in the middle, mostly because, well, they're pretty fast and versatile, so leaving them in the middle to kind of react to whichever side needs them.
For the Khador advanced deploy, I'm going to use the fire lanes of the house and the force gives me, and then placing Saxon Orrik on the left-hand side for Pathfinder for the water.
Alright, continuing the theme, I left the soldier in the middle, hoping I can put him up against Ruin.
Khador, turn 1. So as I mentioned in the deployment, there's a lot of terrain pieces that I'm kind of looking at that really impact the way I feel like this game is going to be played. Linebreaker, in many ways, to me, is, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a dead scenario, but it's one where I 9 times out of 10 see an end in assassination, and very few times do I actually ever see it develop into a scenario win. I can't necessarily ignore the scenario, but at the same time, I'm not necessarily going to drive my army forward for my opponent to just beat on. I'm going to set the line of engagement slightly ahead of the objectives and flags so I can potentially prevent scoring, but then force him to come to me. Thereby I can leverage the wall on my left-hand side to keep Butcher and some of my key pieces safe from non-reach items. I can use the fire lane that's provided to me by the house and the gray patch, or the gray template, which is a forest, to allow me to shoot with my snipers and keep them safe. And then just basically whittle down my opponent's army into a point where I could theoretically use my feat turn to provide me additional boosts on bombards and just go for an assassination. So my goal at the start of this is weather it until I assassinate.
Alright, plan is simple. Advance up and try to stay out of the threat range of his entire army. So first thing first, Molik Karn comes up, tries to hide behind the obstruction a little bit, so I can still use him if needed, but not necessarily keep him completely behind. He should be just outside of a charge threat, and if he decides to run up to him, well, I'm hoping the Keltarii will be able to do their thing to help clear Molik if that happens. So this first turn is going to be everybody's advancing up and just trying to stay out of his threat. Starting off with the Keltarii, the Cetrati. they did basically just a run, press forward. Now the Krea activates, and she did her Animus and advanced. So now she's giving the was it protective aura or whatever it is to get them the defense and arm buff against range attacks. Which, look at that, there's the Widowmakers right there. Then the legends ran up to get behind the woods to try to get out of the way. Well, not actually out of the way, but they try to get there so they could be, so they could take care of anything that may come in that direction. Because I noticed that when Taodark advanced, he kind of made sure to keep one jack a little further towards the top and kept Ruin back. So the hope is that they'll be able to do some damage on some of those Black Dragons or Ironfang Pikemen or whatever they are. Now my caster advances. She throws out some spells, like Quicken and whatnot. And then, so she's sitting on one. The Beast Handlers advance. Don't do anything. The baby runs forward. I think I end up putting up the no spells. And that's pretty much the extent of my turn.
Khador turn 2. So my opponent's advanced up, not anything really big. Obviously, I'm going to be engaged next turn, so one of the things that I'm thinking about is I got to basically set my line of engagement. I'm going to push myself up a little bit past the flags and everything like I mentioned in turn 1, so that I'm not necessarily allowing him to get to my flags without getting through my army. This is most likely going to be a turn where I'm going to mini-feat with Iron Zeal for the Black Dragons, since they're both Black Dragon units. I can basically do a shield wall order. Since I don't need to go screaming up the table, I can shield wall order, advance up, form what we commonly refer to as the Dragon Tooth, which is basically you take 3 pikemen and put them base to base with each other, 2 in the front, 1 in the back. That way the opponent has to remove 2 before he negates the shield wall effect. Because if he removes the back one somehow, the front 2 get it. If he moves one of the front ones, then the back and the front one still benefit from shield wall. Whereas if you only do 2, then killing 1 automatically causes you to lose a second because the other guy isn't shield walled anymore. So on the right hand side, I'm going to put them into shield wall and Iron Zeal. And I'm also going to, because they're facing up against a row of Weapon Masters, I'm also going to be putting Iron Flesh on them. On the left-hand side, I'm just going to do the shield wall and advance up, and then I'm going to put a chunk of my Black Dragons on that side behind the wall. I have Saxon Orrik on that side, so I'm not worried about the wall preventing me from potentially charging next turn, but I'm going to throw a couple of them up front to allow me to have some things that prevent him from getting all the way in the back. Basically, I'm going to feed him a couple on the left-hand side, and then have the ones in the back countercharge on the following turn. Snipers move up, basically get into position where they can go ahead and do some damage on the Keltarii. I only managed to get 1 to do 1 point of damage, but hey, that's 1 point of damage. It's more than we need, or more than nothing at all. So as I mentioned, I'm going to set the line of engagement. I'm going to move up and get the rest of them kind of around the wall, so that if you're swinging over the template or anything like that, you're going to have to deal with that. I do actually manage to get a couple, since I'm shield wall, I advance up. I do actually manage to get it to where I can kill a couple. In hindsight, maybe not. Maybe I should have just left them where it is, because I only managed to kill 1, but and thus handing over I believe I hand over a soul. I didn't necessarily need to. That might have been a waste of dice roll, but sometimes I just go for the kill because it's available to me. So I basically set my line. I've got my pikemen up in their place. I'm going to advance the demolishers up. I put them in base to base so the butcher can be behind it, so that there's no potential shooting that might come his way. And then I'm basically just kind of lobbing some shots out to see if I can do any damage. But I'm setting the demolishers there because Molik Karn's on that side, and I want to be able to throw 2 bombards into him until he's dead. And then we're going to just kind of advance ups to prepare for the following turn.
Alright, turn 2. Taodark kind of made even a more cautious advance than I did. So now he's forcing me to try to have to draw first blood here to see what I can do. I pulled my Fury back and upkept Quicken, which I cast on the Cetrati, because I needed to make sure they got up the field a little faster. I upkept it. So now it's a matter of trying to figure out, do I want to attempt to hit the black dragons or the IFP at the top? Right now I'm trying to figure out, get measurements in there. If I do end up charging, it means that I'm not going to be able to get where I need to. I'm not going to be able to protect them very well, because they will end up, not being able to go in shield wall. But I have opted to go ahead and have them charge. So now it's a matter of figuring out which one charges where to block who. And I accidentally moved one guy up too far before I moved the other guy. Right now with the Cetrati, it's all about trying to figure out the proper sequence in which to have them charge. So instead of having the middle guy charge, I needed the end guy to charge, and it was kind of it's kind of like unpacking after you've had your first turn. So they did their charging. The last guy ended up running. Vorkesh ended up running. And now it's a matter of rolling dice and hoping to do some damage. So, because I'm hoping I can whittle down to get him out of shield wall with the initial swings, and then of course makes it easier to kill the other guy. But unfortunately the other guy had boxes. I did not do enough damage to kill him off, but I was able to whittle down the rest. And now the bug is going to go, and the bug is going to probably end up charging. Probably have to activate the beast handlers first to get it to where he'll be able to charge for free. We do the prodding, but right now I'm trying to make the determination of what I got to do. So first things first, the Krea, she jumps over the fence, shoots the one black dragon, the red black dragon, with Paralyze. I know it really doesn't do much, not for this turn anyways, but it made me feel better to know that she had done something. So she did that, and then she also did her Force Aura. So she was full. Beast Handlers activated. They came forward. They conditioned one off of her. Got in base to base with the Soldier to allow for prodding for free charges. And then I think one got in base to base with Molik Karn also for charging purposes. And now Makeda activates. She pops her feet. And casts... what did she cast? She cast Carnage. So she was able to give them a little bit of help in hitting. So the Soldier charges forward, hits the one guy, kills him on the charge, which works out great for me. And then now I got to figure out the top half of the screen, which is, the sequence in which I have to activate these guys. The one Keltarii survived with tough because the Willbreaker put hardened flesh on them. So he survived, and that kind of causes an issue for me. But I decided to go ahead and activate Molik. He went ahead, he charged for free because of prodding. He then swung on the initial guy, killed him, took a sidestep, swung on the second guy, boost after the fact because, well, I missed by one. So I was able to kill that guy. And then I sidestepped backwards again, keeping the last two guys. I bought an attack. No, I'm sorry, I didn't buy an attack. I put up his Animus and then had him step back because of Fate Walker, because I wanted him out of the way. And I took a free strike, which put a significant amount of damage on Molik. I was actually surprised that Molik survived. I'm surprised one of his aspects did not go out. Now I'm activating the Keltarii after the Willbreaker activates and puts up Hardened Flesh on them. The rest of them then end up charging, trying to get as many forward as I possibly can. You know, doing CMAs, because that's the beautiful thing. And then, of course, with Carnage up, they go from a mat 6 to a mat 8. So it's really kind of a really nice thing, especially if you add in the CMAs, which boosts them up even more for their mat. Now these guys up here, they're under, you know, shield wall and their mini feet and a bunch of other stuff that made them really a tough nut to crack. But some good dice rolls and some good CMAs allowed me to get to them and kill them off. Which unfortunately I did not kill that one guy closest to the obstruction. So now the legends are going to charge in. And so because of them being speed 7, they were able to charge, and then the last guy ended up running. So the two that ended up charging, I started with Reach guy. He ended up swinging. He ended up killing the guy. I had him sidestep back. Oh, I'm sorry, that was Maracas that I had do that. I don't know the guy's name. I really don't know. I got flags, I got Maracas, and I got, you know, staff guy. But the Maracas ended up killing a guy and backed up. And that pretty much concludes my second turn.
Khador, turn 3. So I've lost a pretty good chunk of my IFP. They're not gone per se. They're still fully, you know, capable of doing a lot of damage, especially if with the feet turn. I could theoretically use my feet turn to get a lot of damage out of them through charges onto to the Keltarii or trying to thin out things like the Cetrati. However, he's pop feet, and a couple of things come into play with this. Currently, right now, I'm looking at the table. There's 3 things that are running through my mind, and we actually had to check a ruling before we started this turn, because Bombards have Arcing Fire, which allows them to ignore models that are within 1 inch of another model, or outside of 1 inch of another model, so you can draw a line of sight. So it was a scenario where I was looking at it, and I noticed that the Agonizer is not within 1 inch of the building. Makeda is, so if the building of the obstruction is treated as a model by the rules, I can't target Makeda, but I could target the Agonizer, and under feet turn that would be 2 additional dice boosted demolisher shots going into the Agonizer and doing damage on Makeda. Unfortunately, obstructions are not models, so Arcing Fire is the building blocks line of sight. I mentioned early in the game that building was going to cause me a lot of turmoil, and that's because one of the things that I like about the double demolisher with Butcher is that Arcing Fire potential that a lot of people just don't realize or don't position for. They'll put a big, you know, heavy in front, and they'll be like, oh, well, it's a bigger base, you can't draw a line of sight, forgetting that Arcing Fire will ignore that. So this basically, Makeda gets to hide behind this building the entire game, and I'm never going to get any shots off on her. And because I've set the line of engagement so far back, I'm not really ever going to get any charges off on her either. So she kind of has play of the field, which is frustrating to say the least, but it's the game that we have. So I'm activating currently right now. I'm activating the Black Dragons because I want to go through and kill some of these Keltarii, just to clear up some of the path to potentially either get Bombards on the Legends of Halaak, their small base, so several of them are within 1 inch of another model, so I've got to be cognizant of that, but also just to clear up this gumming that I have going on with me. And some of them are actually engaging the Demolishers, so I activated the Black Dragons in an effort to clear them up. Some of the other things that I've got in play is that Molik Karn is full. He's got no focus spots available to him, so he can't. Fury spots. So he can't spend Fury. So I could theoretically throw Bombard shots at him, and he can't Future Sight them to force me to reroll. Maybe it's not Future Sight. I apologize. I don't remember what the rule is, but he has the ability to force a reroll. So he won't be able to negate any high damage rolls that I put onto him because he's got Fury on him. So I think for the most part, I'm actually going to be leveraging that. I'm going to be throwing my Bombards onto Molik Karn, get him off the table, because he is a huge threat to Butcher. especially with all the infantry that I have kind of around Butcher. If he can somehow get to those and then start Pac-Manning through him, he could assassinate Butcher. So I'm cognizant of removing Molik Karn, so that way I don't have to worry about Pac-Manning through Black Dragons to get to him. The other thing that is also on the table is that Makeda feated, and I kind of view Makeda 1's feat very similar to the way that I viewed Harby 2, Harby in Mark 2, and that's you can, I don't want to say trick, but you can force your opponent to take a lot of damage on their caster through trying to use their feat to the maximum potential. So I actively go through and remind Pokey, hey, I just did damage to this Keltarii. Do you want to have Makeda take a point to keep him up? Is it frustrating that the model doesn't die? Yes. But what it does is it forces damage. So 2 of the Keltarii ended up living, but at the cost of Makeda taking 2 points of damage. So now I'm going in and I'm doing the shield wall, dragon toothing with my black dragons. There is a Keltarii in the middle of the pack of Keltaris that has taken a decent amount of damage. So I can force a lot of damage to Makeda through this Keltarii. So basically what ends up happening is I go through and on my first hit on the Keltarii, I drop him dead. He takes a point of damage, and then I turn around and he gets a swing back. I think he actually missed the first one. And then the other IFPs turn around and start hitting that exact same Keltarii because he's not toughed, he just doesn't die. So I go swing, I hit, I take, he does anywhere from a point or a point of damage that causes him to turn around and get more damage and more transfers. So after it's all said and done, I have lost a couple of my IFP due to the retaliatory strike effect of the feat, but in turn I have traded a couple of my IFP for the equivalency of about 7 points of damage on Makeda. Seems okay.
Alright, turn 3. Okay, not as painful as I was thinking was going to be. I think having the objective in the way kind of helped save my bug from Ruin coming over and just obliterating him. I did lose some, Keltarii, and the Cetrati are, for the most part, okay. Scary part is the Widowmakers are coming around the bottom end there, and they're going to probably start going after my support, if not starting to try to collect points off that lower flag there. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the Cetrati. I'm going to activate them, and then I'm going to have Vorkesh start because, well, Vorkesh has cleave, so if he kills one, he gets to swing again. And try to kill the second guy without anybody else really being affected. So now the beast handlers activate, they come up, they do their little bits of things for conditioning. And of course medicating and enraging and all the other happy stuff that they do. As you can tell, Molik Karn did get hurt enough from the destroyers that he's not 100%. I did end up shield guarding one of those shots with the baby, so the baby's like sitting on 1 health, and now the soldier is going to activate. It's going to charge the objective, and the plan there is to use my initial attack on the objective and then hope to pull in Ruin with one of my claws, and then start using the mandible to finish him off. So now we got a proxy base in there to pull him close enough. Not exactly sure as to why he was rolling dice. Probably some retaliatory strike of some sort. I'm not sure. I am not sure. So now I just use the soldier just to swing on everything. Everything he has goes into Ruin. And I think I failed to kill him by a couple points. Yep, by 2 points. So, with that, I now have to figure out what else I can get in there that can hopefully take out Ruin. Because even with those 2 boxes, he is going to probably ruin my day. Get it? Ruin my day? Haha, I'm a prankster, didn't even know it. So, start out with the Keltarii. They take the charge order, press forward order, whatever it is. They do their thing to make swings, trying to thin out those black dragons even more, or the red Iron Fang pikemen, whatever they are. They're the IFP guys. So I'm just sitting there swinging away, hoping I can do some damage, and then because they didn't fail charges or anything else, they just went ahead and did their overtake moves, not their overtake, their reform moves, which is a reform 3 to get them out of the way. And now I activate the last of the legends, or activate the legends and then have them charging in, 2 on Ruin, and then 1 on one of the guys over the fence. And now I am able to say that I've actually been able to kill off Ruin. So he's out of the picture, so that makes me a little happier, but I still have those 2 destroyers, and not a lot on that side that's going to be able to do much. So Molik Karn comes up after being healed by Makeda. I believe she puts Quicken on him, removes Quicken over to him when she activated earlier, and healed him, and then he was given Puppet Master and Enrage, so he walked around the edge, and the hope is that he can hopefully cripple one of those destroyers, and he ends up moving to the side with his Fate Walker move.
Khador, turn 4. So in no surprising event, the Weapon Master Keltaries clean out the last of the IFPs. I've managed to not only deal damage to Makeda, but also put kind of block in those Keltarii, prevent them from advancing. They've abandoned the flag. I was kind of surprised by that. I honestly thought that he was just going to move the Keltarii over and then just deal with the flag, because he still has his 2 heavies to deal with mine. I've lost Ruin. That was probably one of the bigger mistakes I did this turn. I positioned him behind the objective in order to deal with the heavy when it comes in and killing the objective. But he's too close to the objective, and it ended up causing him to die. I had Vengeance on him, so I did manage to get a retaliatory strike, so some damage did go out onto the heavy. So he's not necessarily walked away unscathed, but he did manage to kill both the objective and Ruin. So I moved the single surviving member, the standard bearer of my Black Dragons, over to the objective. He didn't have enough movement to get him to contest the flag, but I did get him into position where he's not necessarily visible by my opponent. I'm technically using terrain to help hide a model so that my opponent forgets I can contest that with a single model. Obviously can't control because it's just a single guy. The snipers have now advanced up. They're going to work on the objective. I'm going after his support, but I might as well put them next to the flag in an effort to gain points while I do that. And then I put a lot of fury into the Black Demolisher because I'm going to use my feat turn to have that Demolisher with his crit amputee axe potentially kill both Molik Karn and the beast. I'm not going to shoot the beast because it's got the armored carapace. The soldier, because it's got the armored carapace. So I'm going to have to just advance up and kill. So Butcher is actually the proxy base that you see that's kind of hovering on that oil pit terrain piece. He's actually back there. I don't want to be near Molik Karn. As long as he's alive, I don't want to be near him. So I advance up the Demolisher. Again, he's the proxy base. I didn't move it in because I didn't want to knock things around. And I'm just going to go through the activations of targeting out Molik Karn to kill him because he's the concern, and then hoping that the additional damage that I'm getting from feat turn and boosting and all that stuff kills the soldiers while taking the 2 heavies off of the table. He'll still have the Khataris, and Khataris can do a lot of damage with their weapon masters, but at least the 2 beasts are on the table, off the table, so that his own real way of developing fury is off of reaping from the dead beasts and then the agonizer. And then I just kind of go in with trying to do more damage. Sylys Wyshnalyrr charged in to do damage on a Keltarii, which is probably a waste of an activation because I could use him for contesting. And then Saxon Orrik's probably going to end up running around the far side of the forest to get himself into position to get scoring. I might as well get some scoring scenarios and shift my game over to a scoring scenario. He's only got 1 point right now, so if I get 1 point from the snipers, get Saxon Orrik in position to potentially claim the other flag, then I start getting 2 scenario points per turn. I could theoretically win the game at the end of 2 more turns. Just got to keep Butcher alive and continually keep contesting where I can. So that's kind of the plan that I'm going for right now.
Turn 4. It kind of sucked losing my 2 heavy beasts, but fortune had smiled upon me to allow me to take out the destroyer due to a free strike on his turn. So thankfully for me, it's now his 1 heavy and the butcher versus what I have left. I do have the Cetrati left. They have potential for taking out a jack if I can get enough of them in there, being weapon masters. But you know, it's one of those things where I still have the butcher to deal with, which makes it really tough because any one unit is just not going to survive against him for too long. So I activate the single legend that is still alive, and he takes out 2 of the Iron Fang pikemen or black dragons, whatever they should be, and does a sidestep, and then to get out of the way, and then the Keltarii activate. They move up to try to take out the last of the black dragons that are around the other flag. But as you can see, unfortunately I forgot to move the 1 guy next to the building, and Taodark was gracious enough that once I did the reform, that he was able to make the least ways the reform move to get into formation and close enough to the flag to allow me to score a point there at the end of my turn. But I still have his Widowmakers on that lower flag scoring points for him. So my next move is to take the Cetrati and have them charge in to the last destroyer and hope that I can do enough to get enough of them on there that I can take out that destroyer. And as you can tell, they are doing a marvelous job being weapon masters on the charge. They're going to get some work done. I didn't have to put a carnage on them because, well, it's a Khador jack. It's defense 10. It's like hitting Skorne. It's easily hit. So thankfully I'm able to take it out, and had 1 more guy to go swing on Wyshnalyrr, but I missed. So now the Beast Handlers activate. They kind of just shamble around to get out of the way. The Willbreaker activates. He kind of shuffles up, stays close to the flag. I run the Krea up to the other flag. So now I own both flags. I take my caster, I move her up. I run her up around the corner, and then I take the Agonizer and have the Agonizer run to contest the flag.
Khador, turn 5. So I'm going to contest with my flag standard because he's still there. I'm currently being contested by the Agonizer with my snipers, and I just take the opportunity to remove the sniper because it's a Fury Generation piece. It's contesting me, so why not? It's still technically support. And then again, the snipers are doing what I intended them to. They're killing the support staff. There's no way they're going to be able to kill the objective. I don't have any illusions on that, so I'm not going to get any control points on that. I activate Butcher. The biggest thing about him is he can't contest. So those Keltarii are sitting on that flag, and they have no problems just continuing to wait through Butchers. I was thinking about going through and swinging a bunch of axes on them, but they're really clustered up. So I just decided to go screw it, and I'm going to throw an Obliterate on them. So that way I can drop the AoE on them, catch them, and remove. And my intention is not necessarily to kill the unit, but to reduce them below half, so that way, you know, they're not scoreable. Like, he can contest, but I'm not scoring on my own stuff, so who cares? But they're not scoring, so I'm not allowing my opponent. So here goes Saxon. He goes running over to the flag. I can't kill the little guy, so I'm not going to be able to score this turn, but he's at least ready.
All right. Turn 5. Now is the crazy time. I have to get a little creative. I don't have anything that can still come after the Butcher. He whittled down my Keltarii enough to where they can no longer score on that flag. So it's now it's just a matter of trying to figure out how can I score the rest of this. I don't think I have the speed to get in, but I do take the last remaining legend and have him swing on the Butcher. And he does a few points of damage. Very trivial, but still works for me. I then take my caster, have her run to the flag, advance the Krea up, have it boost to hits, kill the one standard bearer that's hiding behind the building, and then I activate the Cetrati, and they come up and they pretty much do everything they can to kill Wyshnalyrr. And that's my turn, scoring 5.
So in the following turn, my opponent ends up going and, you know, he has no real issues killing the things and getting his 5 CPs. I end up getting my 3rd at the end of the turn, and it's one of the situations of similar to the Butcher game against the Retribution. I didn't win, but I wasn't necessarily out of the game. One more turn and I could have won on CPs. I feel like that building, I did not plan for that central building well. The fact that Makeda got to hide behind it for most of the turn made it so that assassinating her was no longer on the table. The fact that it's a scenario where I have to be aggressive in order to score points on. I still feel like staying back and being a bit defensive and setting the line and whittling his army down before trying to push for scenario or assassination was the right choice. Just running at Makeda 1 is just going to get you killed. Like, it's not a battle plan that I would recommend. I was comfortable with the trading of the IFPs to reduce her hit points. I think that was a sound strategy as well, because it puts her in a situation where she's at 9 hit points, and if at any point in time she stuck her head out from behind that building while I had even a single demolisher on the table, she theoretically could be dead. So I was pushing for the assassination. He was able to kill more than I was in the sense of the attrition game, and he was able to control my flags in order sooner than I was in order to squeak out the scenario win. So I had a good time, had a great game, and it's always fun playing against Pokey and learning how these new Skorne work. Until then, I will see you next week.